And in the clowns. Welcome back, Screen Ranters. We're here to blow your noggins with some in-depth Joker wisdom. The film has been an incredible success. It's broken box office records and has sparked predictions of it cleaning up at the next Oscars. With all that praise, we wanted to highlight some parts that may have slipped under your radar. Hidden details and Easter eggs always make comic films fun. Such entries include Martin Scorsese, Todd Phillips' other films, DC Comics, Batman, and many, many more. You're in for a real treat. We won't keep you waiting, so let's get started. As the film opens, we're treated to an old school Warner Brothers logo. Look at it. It really gets you in the mood for some 80s hijinks that revolves around an uncaring society that wears you down until you finally snap and then seek revenge against those that wronged you. Yeah, not sure what happened there. You guys, a Joker film? Opened up some deep-seated thoughts. Anywho, the old school logo is a nice touch by Warner Brothers. It helps to set the stage for what's to come. A lot of films that are set in the past don't tend to go into that much detail during the opening credits. It's a testament to the deep thought that went into the film's creation. As Fleck is on the train, three wealthy men harass a woman, until she leaves and Fleck becomes their target. Fleck gets the upper hand once he fires his weapon into them, which is a weird way of putting that, but let's go with that. This act leads to the massive public support for Fleck's actions. This event is actually a crime taken from the real world. In 1984, Bernard Goetz shot 4 teenagers on a New York subway train. Originally, he became a hero to the masses. They saw him as an underdog fighting back. The press even gave him a tough nickname, the Subway Vigilante. However, it soon came to light that Goetz did this horrid event based on racial grounds. Yikes. Even Joker doesn't agree with something like that. Like right there, where he tells the Red Skull exactly what he thinks about that guy's ideals. Joker's got some morals, y'all. Not many, but some. Did you know which black and white film the character of Joker is inspired from? If you said Citizen Kane, then you're wrong. Just plain wrong. The answer is The Man Who Laughs. In this film, the main character is disfigured due to his father's actions. He has to bear a creepy smile for the rest of his days. In The Joker, they reference the film's influence. Near the start of the movie, Arthur Fleck uses his fingers to try to force a smile on his face, even though he's crying. Later on, when he meets his maybe baby brother, Bruce Wayne, he does the same. Only this time, he does it on Bruce. Maybe not the best way to introduce yourself to a child, or anybody. Some eyebrows were raised by DC fans when it was announced that Joker was going to be directed by Todd Phillips. At the time, Phillips was best known for his comedy films, such as the Hangover trilogy, which has a lot of comedic shenanigans. Joker doesn't have very many laughs. If you found it hilarious, then, well, that's really weird. We're a tad bit concerned. However, while Phillips moved away from his comedy work, he did bring a piece with him. He cast Brian Callen in Joker as one of Fleck's co-workers at Ha-Ha's. Callen worked with Phillips in most of the Hangover trilogy, as well as helping his chum in 2003's Old School. Those two go way back. Thomas Wayne was very different in Joker than in other iterations. He was uncaring and tended to punch people when they were laughing. Originally, Alec Baldwin was going to take the role. However, Brett Cullen stepped in instead. For all you Bat fanatics, the actor that played Thomas Wayne may have looked a little familiar. That's because this isn't Cullen's first time in a Batman film. Before he portrayed the snobby Thomas in Joker, Cullen portrayed a congressman in The Dark Knight Rises. In the film, Selina Kyle kidnaps the sleazy politician for a brief period. Eventually, the kidnapping is interrupted by the SWAT team. Even after Selina tangles with SWAT, the congressman still asks Selina to call him. What an odd duck. In keeping with the 80s flavor, once Fleck finishes his knock-knock joke on Murray, the live feed cuts out as he rants at the camera. We see a production studio with many news channels that are talking about the grisly event that just happened. But we also see a couple of nice 80s Easter eggs. We see a couple of vintage adverts for Budweiser, Energizer, Kellogg's, and Rolling Rock. We also see an anti-drug PSA with Clint Eastwood. Ah, nostalgia. Maybe when Joker goes to the 90s, we get to see adverts for Pogs and Sunny D, as well as a PSA with Eddie Murphy that has Barbie Girl playing in the background. That'd be pretty grand. So in Joker, Bruce's parents kick the bucket, just like in almost every version of his origin story. Whoops. Probably should have added a spoiler warning. Anyways, as the fable goes, the adults go down a dark alley with their young child. Very sensible stuff there, guys. A mugger comes out of the darkness and robs them, before unknowingly creating Batman by shooting his parents. Most of the time, it's Joe Chill that's the culprit responsible. Sometimes in the comics, it's hinted that Joe Chill is actually the Joker. In the film, there seems to be a hint at this, as the man that robs them is wearing the clown mask that's swept across Gotham. Holy spooky connection, Batman. The well-known story of Bruce's parents' demise is just that, well-known. Anyone that's heard of Batman knows what happened to his parents. We tested this theory out. We asked 3 random people, and they knew. But did you know what film the family were leaving just before the life-changing event? Yep. It was the Mark of Zorro. Congrats to all that knew that. The swashbuckler would go on to inspire Bruce in his vigilantism. They both wear black, fight injustice, and put their symbols literally everywhere. And we got a nod to the Bat's hero in Joker. We see that one of the films playing at the cinema is Zorro, the Gay Blade. This Zorro parody was released in 1981, the year that Joker is set in. The Oscar winner Martin Scorsese has his creative fingerprints all over the Joker's style. The gritty scenes of Gotham harken back to a lot of Scorsese's work in New York, even though officially he wasn't involved with the Joker's creation, all because he was too busy working on The Irishman. However, the director of Joker, Todd Phillips, is a big Scorsese fan, so it seems fitting that this entry involves longtime Scorsese actor Robert De Niro. In The King of Comedy, De Niro plays a character who's a comedian that is obsessed with a TV host. In Joker, he plays a TV host who's the obsessive target for a comedian. Funny how life works like that. However, Rupert Pupkin only kidnapped his quest. Fleck went with a more extreme method. Continuing on the Scorsese love train, there's another of his iconic films that shows some similarities to Joker. What we're talking about, of course, is 1976's Taxi Driver. In that talkie, Travis Banks is a loner that lives in a crumbling society. He becomes obsessed with a presidential candidate, Charles Palantine. Arthur Fleck, on the other hand, is a loner that lives in a broken society. He becomes obsessed with a mayoral candidate, Thomas Wayne. Both films show New York and Gotham as being a place that shuns the lower classes. Maybe in the Joker sequel, we can see some homages to the gangs of New York, or The Departed. Arkham Asylum is probably the worst place to hold your villains. They seem to escape on the regular and then just go right back to their naughty ways sometime after. Batman should really sort that place out. We can actually see the asylum in Joker, kind of. Or more accurately, its predecessor. Arkham Asylum would usually be the go-to place for Gotham to help the mentally ill. However, it may not have been built yet. Instead, the ill get shoved into Arkham State Hospital instead. We know this as Fleck has to go get his mother's medical records from that hospital. Hopefully, the asylum will be built after Fleck's new career takes off. After all, he needs a place to escape from after Batman lobs him in there. Looking for answers on who his pa really is, Fleck hunts down his mother's medical records at Arkham State Hospital. Fleck doesn't get the answers that he was hoping for. However, we get to enjoy an Easter egg. So there's that. The doctor that diagnosed the medical condition that Penny has is named Benjamin Stoner. Stoner is actually a comic character. Yay, comics! In DC, for a time, he was the head doctor at Arkham Asylum. However, he eventually takes a page from many of his patients that Batman chucked in there. He turns to the dark side and becomes a villain known as Anti-Fate. With that name, he was a regular problem for Dr. Fate. For those unsure, Fate is basically DC's version of Doctor Strange, only with a really cool helmet. So shiny. John Wayne Gacy was a coulrophobia sufferer's nightmare. FYI, that big word that I probably mispronounced means clown phobia. Google is great. Anyways, Gacy was a prolific, violent criminal. Many people perished at his hands. He would also spend his free time dressed as a clown in order to entertain, which is why a reference to him may seem a tad unsettling. The comedy club that Fleck frequents is called Pogo's. Pogo was the name of one of his clown personas. It could be a coincidence, but we're Screen Rant. We don't really believe in coincidences. Everything is done for a reason in film and TV. Even the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones. We have no idea what that reason was, but there is one. Todd Phillips was adamant that they weren't going to adapt a comic story for Joker, so there was no chance of Joker becoming the UN's ambassador for Iran. Shame, as that would have been pretty intriguing. Instead, the film was going to be an original origin story for the audience to lap up. However, there are some similarities to a certain comic story, in particular DC's The Killing Joke. Within the illustrated pages and its less well-received film adaptation, Joker's origin story involves him failing as a stand-up. It mirrors what happened in the film. However, the comic story leads to Joker getting covered in chemicals, while Fleck managed to avoid that pain. Lucky. Maybe in a sequel, because it's not like Fleck's life was tragic enough already. Besides The Killing Joke, there's another much-loved story that seems to have influenced the film, and that being the story that influences basically every Batman-related story, The Dark Knight Returns. It tends to get brought up a lot as a turning point in the character of Batman. Nice and gritty. In the story, Joker has an appearance on a talk show. Just like Fleck, Joker then annihilates everyone in the building with gas, which is not like Fleck. Instead, Fleck keeps his TV casualty count to 1. It seems fitting that 2 of the famous Batman stories are influencing this new new chapter in the film mythos of Joker. Maybe for the sequel, we